Welcome. We'll get started shortly. Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. There are no polling questions or attendance checks. Instead, you will demonstrate your knowledge by taking a brief multiple-choice quiz using the Earmark app. Visit earmark.app in your web browser. You can also download the mobile app by scanning the QR code on the screen. Log in, or if you're new, create your free account. Be sure to use a valid email address because that's where we'll send your course completion certificates. From the home screen, scroll down to find the course. You can also tap the magnifying glass icon to search for the course. Tap on the course artwork, then the Enroll button. On the Course tab, you'll find the recording and quiz questions. Complete the quiz to earn your CPE certificate. It takes us a few days to create the course on the app, so if you are attending this session live, please wait a few days. We'll email you a link to the course when it is ready. If you have questions or need help, email us at support@earmarkcpe.com. And now, on to the event.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zach from Earmark, and thanks for joining us today or watching this on demand. And I'd like to welcome you to Streamline Your Accounts Payable with AI. And I'm going to hand it off to your instructor right now, Ted McRae. Ted, take it away.
Thanks, Zach, and great talking to you. Thanks, everybody. Happy that you're all here. We're going to talk a little bit about, or a lot about, AI-powered AP, streamlining your accounts payable. And a little bit about myself first, though. Let's just go into that. So this is me here. You can probably see me on the screen as well, on my camera. But I've worked in this industry for about 30 years. I know I don't look like I'm that old to have been able to do that, but yes, I am. And I had leadership roles at companies like ADP, Paychex, Intuit, as well as Xero. So I was a recycled employee at Intuit for around 8 years and was employee number 15 at Xero US. Also worked at a company called Accounting Suite, and now I'm over here at Makers Hub. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Not really Makers Hub, but just the new technology that can help improve your workflow when it comes to data entry, error prevention, and just streamlining that whole process. So let's go through the overview of what we're going to be talking about today. The introduction. So I've introduced myself. I am monitoring the comments as well. So I'd love it if you have a question. I like to keep these as interactive as possible. So if you do have a question, it would be great if you could just throw it up in that comment screen. We can, anything that is applicable to what we're talking about, I'll be more than happy to answer it. But we're going to go into a Makers Hub overview, just a quick understanding of who Makers Hub is. Then I'm going to talk a lot about computer vision and artificial intelligence and AI, and just so everyone can understand how that actually works and what it does, because it's very important in this whole aspect of how it should be used when extracting data and how powerful it can be in this whole data extraction and pre-accounting world. We're going to also talk about now revolutionizing the accounts payable with that type of a tech. So I'm going to go into ChatGPT and show you some examples of the power of new OCR or computer vision, because we'll talk about the differences between what OCR was in the past, but also what it was promised to do for us in the past. That promise was never really actually fulfilled. We'll talk about some conclusions and key takeaways, and then hopefully some next steps. Also at the end, if there are any Q&A, we'll do some Q&A, but hopefully if there is Q&A while we're doing this, we can go ahead and get that done in the comments section. All right, so let's introduce Makers Hub. So Makers Hub is an AP. It's a full service AP solution from extraction to payments. But I want to talk a little bit about how it was actually founded and how it was born, if you want to call it that. So this is Fong here. He's one of our co-founders, and Fong worked at this manufacturing company that manufactured these vats, and Fong actually designed these vats, and the vats had like between 10 and 20,000 parts. And what these vats were doing, if you've ever flown on like a Boeing that the windows automatically tint at a touch of a button, well, he's the one who actually built the product that makes that actually happen. So Fong's an engineer by trade. And what Fong was trying to do is find a product that could get all of the parts when the bills would come in or when the item receipts would come in, to extract all the line items of those bills to get every single part that was coming in, the quantity, the amount. Because what he was finding is that the AP department was kind of like the clog in the pipeline, if you want to call it that, because the bills would come in, the AP department would have to manually enter those bills into QuickBooks Enterprise, is what they were using at the time, and get all the quantities in, the new prices in, and everything like that. And what he quickly found out is that they couldn't bid these out correctly to their clients. They couldn't find out the true cost of goods sold because of that clog in the pipe. The AP department, as great as they were, could not enter that information quick enough. So he set out to find a solution that could help him with that. And he went to all the old legacy style AP technology companies and quickly found out that they couldn't do it either. So he decided to build his own. But what he also found out is that these technology companies were all using some of the same OCR products on the back end. And that's really what was keeping these OCR products from basically being able to extract the data, because the OCR back end technology that they were using is used for more than just extracting bills. It's used for doctors' offices for extracting social security numbers and names. It's used for banks to extract check details, things of that nature. So Fong set out to build his own product with today's technology. Instead of using this old legacy style OCR technology, he decided to use today's technology with large language models and computer vision, like an advanced OCR, to build this, to get this done. So that's what we call Wise Vision technology. I've got the OCR circle slashed because it's really like a computer vision. In essence, it is an OCR, optical character recognition, but it's much more than that. And that's what we're going to talk about today, and how that actually works. So we scan every single detail on the bill, and we let large language models decide what that is instead of hard coding it into the program. So let's talk a little bit about large language models and what they actually are, because this is kind of an important aspect of what this whole thing is. So hold on one second. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna get this back. Okay. So large language models, it's cutting edge technology, like it says here, but it's programmed in to understand and contextualize the data that you put in to it. So it's programmed in either from books and things of that nature to understand and respond in human form, in essence. So when it responds, it's like you're talking to a human, and it helps you, right, understand based on the knowledge that it has. So how does it do this? So how do large language models work? So they're trained with extensive data sets. So they actually have people that go in and type this information in, they import it in, they put the context in from books. And now, fortunately, when ChatGPT first started in large language models, they couldn't really scan the internet. It was just limited to the information that it had within the database. But now it can go out and it can read websites for you. It can look for things. If you tell it to search the web to find specific things, it can go and search for you and do this type of stuff for you. So, but but it basically, they learn language patterns, grammar, context, and all the nuances that we all have for our own language. So the key components of large language models are the neural networks, and this is like the backbone of the LMS. And this is really designed to stimulate the brain's learning process. But then we have tokenization. So, and we're going to go over tokenization, and this is all very important in the whole aspect, because this is how like our product understands what it's reading, instead of just being programmed to read a few bits and bytes of things. And this is what we'll talk about when we compare the OCR, old school OCR, to what we're doing currently. And so tokenization breaks it down into small units, and then those units, after it analyzes those units, it puts it in context and indexes it for understanding. So then it recognizes the meanings of the words based on the context that it sees. So let's take some examples of like tokenization. So this is tokenization of something that you might see on a bill. The bill is due on July 30th. So what does tokenization do with this? It breaks down the sentence into little tokens so it can understand what it's looking at, right? Even punctuation marks. Normally, if you think of like a legacy OCR product, it's programmed to look for specific terms, right? So due date, invoice number, PO or purchase order. So it's pre-programmed to understand specific items that it's looking for. It doesn't extract the whole bill or invoice and then decide what it is. So that's the difference between OCR, legacy, and this new technology. Legacy looks at it's programmed to look at. New technology looks at the bill entirely, in its entirety, and then decides what it is based on large language models. And this is what we're talking about here. So tokenization, the bill is due July 30th. So the tokens are the bill is due. So these are all the little tokens that it does, even the period, right? So then what it does is it takes those tokenizations and then puts them together into indexing and context to understand what the meaning of each thing is, each token. So it's going to put it together in phrases. So the bill. So then it would take those tokens, put them together into the bill. It indicates the specific document that we're talking about. So this is how, not just with like a Maker's Hub, this works, but large language models in general, this is how it works. So it takes that understanding of the bill. Okay, that means that that's the document that, or the specific invoice that we're talking about is due. And then it knows that that suggests a requirement or an obligation related to the bill that we're talking about. And then on whatever the date is, it knows based on the first two that date specifies the deadline or the due date. It doesn't just, it's not dumb data that we're talking about. It actually is starting to understand based on the phrases and the context that's within those bills. So that's the context example of how this whole thing works and can understand what it's doing. So let's just take a look at the practical application of document processing, and we're actually going to go in and do this a little bit. And I'm going to just use ChatGPT because that's just the easiest one to get into. But the role of large language models in document processing is extracting this key information from unstructured data. So it's taking every single bit of data that it sees, then it uses its tokenization and the context within it to put it together to now give us some structured text. So it can understand that what the vendor names are based on the context that's in there, not because it's pre-programmed to know that, but because it's learned and it understands what invoice number means, what due dates mean, and everything else that is in that bill. And we're going to get into it and take a look at what that looks like. And so then what we can do from that now is we can take this unstructured text and now put some structure to it and create databases with it or create exports with it and all this really cool stuff. So computer vision also can convert handwriting into text, because not only is it looking just for characters, but because of the learning models that are in it, it can look and understand handwriting now. And it can convert that handwriting into readable text, lowercase, uppercase, all sorts of really cool things now, where we can even take handwritten receipts and take that unstructured data and create structured text for it, and make this process even easier. So those are some of the practical applications of what this can do. So let's take a look now. I'm going to go into ChatGPT, and we're going to take a look at some unstructured text, or some structured text, or both, really. So let's go into ChatGPT. I'm just going to pull up a new one. Hopefully you all are familiar with ChatGPT. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in, let me find them first. And we're going to do some fun examples here first about what actually AI can do, because it's pretty cool. So here's some invoices that we're going to do, but I'm going to take this butterfly image. Now, the way that a AI looks at an image like this is it feels like, from the response that we're going to get, that it's actually visualizing and seeing the picture as we see it. But what it actually does is it breaks down the pixels, and it knows, based on the pixels and the X's and the ones and zeros, what the picture is. And it's programmed to understand what it's looking at based on the picture and the pixels and the ones and zeros underneath it. So I'm not saying that an OCR product will do this, but this is going to display the understanding that a model like this has. So look, I'm going to say, can you explain in detail what this picture is? So now it's going to break this picture down into pixels, into ones and zeros and all that stuff. And it's going to tell me what this is. It wasn't pre-programmed to do this. It just knows what to do based on this large language model. So it even knows what I asked it to do, because it's taken the tokenization of my sentence, and it spits out exactly what this picture is. So it's pretty cool the way that this can take a picture and it says, look at, it goes even into some pretty extraordinary detail. It says what the butterfly is. It shows us that it's what the species is. It's perched on a cluster of purple flowers, most likely a butterfly bush. It even says the background is blurry and all this other stuff. It's super cool. So what else can it do? Well, we'll put another picture in here and say, can you do the same with this? With this picture. So now we're going to say, okay, can you do the same with this picture? This is a picture of Yosemite, of Half Dome. Let's see if, I need to actually hit enter. So this is of Half Dome, and there's some people with some colorful hats looking at it. There's a cloud in the sky. Let's see what it does. And so again, it's showing us exactly what it is. It knows, because it's smart, and because it's programmed to know all of these different things, what it is. It's because of the the large language model in the background and all the learning that it's done and all that stuff. It knows what it is, the people that are there. It's just amazing. So now let's take a look at, so that's fun, right? It can understand images. It breaks it down, pixelizes them, and understands the image. But now, what can we do with something like an invoice? So let's take a look at this Belimo invoice here. So it has a lot of cool stuff on here that would probably trip up an old OCR product probably 100 times over, right? So it has an old OCR product might be able to get this, the number, maybe the date, but probably not this date. It might find an invoice date somewhere down here, like the order date. It might get the PO number, but because this doesn't have a dash, it may leave this off of it. It would, quite frankly, they would probably find the invoice total, but it wouldn't do anything else really. So it's not very helpful because, like I said, these OCR products, the old legacy types, are really only looking for specific things. So let's take this Belimo invoice, and I'm going to upload this into our computer vision model here. And I'm going to say, can you please, I always like to say please, just in case like AI takes over the world and enslaves all of us. They'll make me like do something nicer because I was the one who was always nice to them. Can you please extract the detail of this bill, including all the SKU numbers and line item details. Also, point out any issues on this bill. So let's go ahead and do that. see what happens. So it'll take the bill. I'm going to just get rid of this now. So here's what it's pulling out. Here's the invoice information. Here's who it's sold to, the invoice number, the invoice date, the order date, the customer PO, all the information, the line item. So look at it's taking out the SKU or the item number. It's taking out the description of what it is, the list price, the net price, and the total price. It's absolutely amazing what it can do without being programmed to do it, if you want to think of it that way. Suzette said, did LOL that she types please and thank you as well. Hey, you got it, just in case they take over the world. Suzette, you and I are going to be the ones that are like, we're sitting on top of all the other enslaved people because we said please and thank you. Okay, so now look at what it's done. It's given us the total. It's given us every single bit of information. Now, what happens to this? I mean, what can we do with this structured data? I mean, there's so much now that we can do with this, especially like if you're thinking about companies that you might be working with that need this type of granular data in their bills instead of just the little invoice number or the total amount. So here's all the information that we have from this bill / invoice, the summary, no shipping, no tax, but here's some potential issues. Multiple tagging charges. So hey, you got a tagging charge for each thing. Look at this, the discount application, the order mentions a 4% discount on the total, but it's unclear if this discount has been consistently applied across all the items. Double check the final discounted price to ensure accuracy. Well, this is a very, very big issue, especially if you want the true cost of goods sold. So I'm going to ask it to, hey, can you please add the line item totals, and compare them to the invoice total. So it's going to sum all those for us now. I already know there's an issue. Yeah, so Suzette asked, can we teach it with our agency's language? For example, I would want to teach it to associate client ID as the invoice number. Yeah, so that's the one thing, Suzette, that's really cool. Like, you can teach this things as long as you use the same chat. You can teach it to do so much. Now, in a product like a Makers Hub, we're gonna get into now what you can do with this. But yes, you can. You can say, hey, like I don't use. Let's just go back up to the top. So this is a good example. So we have the PO number of 23 blah blah blah. But we also have in the invoice a project name, and it was like Brooklyn UVs. For some reason, it didn't pull it out. But I could say, don't use PO number don't use the extracted PO number. Use the project name, and I'll show you that. But look at what we have here. Look at, so now the sum of item amounts is so the sum of the items is 12,700, but the total of the invoice is 12,253. It results in a discrepancy of $509. Well, guess what? That's that 4%. So what if you could tell your OCR system two things, like Suzette said? Let's do this. What is the project name on the invoice? So let's see what it says the project name is on the invoice. Okay, so see, Suzette, the project name on the invoice is Brooklyn UVs. And now I can say, can you use the project name instead of the PO number from now on? And so it's going to teach it. You see where it says memory updated? As long as I use the same chat, Suzette, got it. I'll use the project name, Brooklyn UVs, instead of the PO number from now on. Let me know if you need anything else. So how cool is that? Now, how cool would it be if you could do that in your OCR product, right? Or in your AP product, and not have to do that every single time. But now let's take it a step further. So we've done that. We know that there's a discrepancy here of the resulting in $509. I know myself that that's for the 4% discount. So if you take a look, I'm doing all of this, but I have to tell it to do it manually, right? So in a new technology style AP product, what if you could just tell the product to do that by clicking a few buttons? That's how powerful this is. But so let's go into this now and say, so, okay, so what do we do with this now? I have it, great. It's found all this stuff. What if I was able to upload all of my bills into a product like a computer vision product, and then say, can you create an Excel document that has all the fields, for this extract, that would be helpful in a database. That would be helpful. A database. There's probably an easier way to say it, but, and then, so let's just see if it can do that for us. So now what it's going to do is it's going to take every single field that it thinks is, that it needs, and create an Excel table style database for us. that I could use now. I could upload all of my bills and then export it into an Excel database or into MySQL. If you are a tech nerd like me, I can upload it. I can say now export it as in MySQL, and then I can just use the data that it spits out to import into a regular old database. So let's just let this go, and I'm gonna and then we're gonna go back. So look at, I've created the document below right here, and you can download using the link. So let's just, for giggles, let's download this and take a look at what it looks like. Okay, it's gonna be pretty cool, I think. So here's the invoice info. So this is how a database actually would work, just so you know. It has the invoice info. It would have all the invoice here, but then it would have the line item details for that invoice here, right? So if I created a database, it would have a relationship table between the line items and the invoice total. So these are some of the really cool things now that we can do with, look at, I'm going to say, can you export this for a invoice / vendor database to MySQL, I'm just going to say to SQL. So it's going to create now the actual programming to do this. And now we're getting really nerdy, sorry, but I'm just showing you like the context of how we can do this. And then Makers Hub has already done this. I'm not going to go into a demo of Makers Hub and all that stuff. If you want to know more, you can get a hold of Makers Hub. But this is, I just wanted to show you, this is powerful stuff that can take let's just say a 68-page document with 63 different bills inside that document and over 3,000 line items, and export or extract all of that data, index it, put it into tokenization and stuff like that. It didn't do an SQL. It did download the SQL export. Let's see what it does. Let's see if it'll allow me to open it in Notepad. So yeah, look at it. It says insert into invoices, blah blah blah. So look at, it's created the database for me and how to do it. This is, I mean, I know it because I've done this before, but it's pretty darn cool. So what if, now let's get back to Death by PowerPoint. What if you could do this for, like I said, a 68-page document with 63 different invoices in it. It knows, because of the invoice number, where one invoice ends, the next one begins. It's extracted 3,000 data points or line item data points for us, and has done it within like 47 seconds. And now all I need to do is approve that information. I mean, it's powerful stuff. And that's why we're talking about streamlining your AP and streamlining this whole data entry. So let's get back into Death by PowerPoint. So you see the power of being able to do that, but so what, right? What are you going to do? You're going to go to ChatGPT and go through that exercise that I did every single time? It seems like a lot of work to me. But here's how we're doing it currently. In a lot of cases, we need this data. This is powerful data, right? The data that we get from these invoices, the detail of this data that we get from invoices is extremely important. However, the pure act of entering this data has absolutely no value. So if you think about it like that, the entering of the data, there is absolutely zero value in that entering of data. Your clients don't see any value in it. You can't bill for any value that's there. It's just, I mean, it's basically a minimum wage or less if you're outsourcing it job. So what if we could outsource it to large language models or AI instead? We would get rid of the manual nature of these tasks, which is, it's time consuming, right? The process of entering in 68 pages, 3,000 plus line items would take hours or days to do for a human being. Think about the potential for errors. Maybe you would be on the first handful of bills in that 68-page document, you would be, pretty accurate. But after like the third page, I'd hate to even think about what the accuracy would be on that fourth page. So there's a huge potential for errors. Even like I was showing you that ChatGPT found is that difference between the cost on the line item and the total of the invoice. There was a difference there that wasn't caught anywhere on the invoice. That invoice, if we took a look at it, the invoice is funny because nowhere does it say the dollar amount of that 4%. All it says is that you got a 4% discount, but doesn't show it anywhere else on the invoice. So how is the regular data entry person that's only getting paid minimum wage or outsourced to the Philippines or wherever, how are they going to know that they need to count for that discount in there? They're not going to. And then you think about the inefficiency and bottlenecks, just like we talked about with Fong earlier when he had the 10,000, 20,000 part VATs that these people had to enter key all of that information in. There were some huge bottlenecks that happened, not only just the entering, but think about like the approval process and getting that information in so we can do projections on it. We can do proposals for clients. It's just crazy, the inefficiencies in this whole pre-accounting that we have today because we're not leveraging technology the way that we should. All right, so now let's talk about the role of computer vision, right? So computer vision or the data extraction, look at what we just did with computer vision, because it revolutionizes this whole pre-accounting aspect in like a CAS type environment. So what do clients need and what do you need to help your clients? You need data. What is one of the most expensive things is to get that data, right? Because it takes a ton of time to enter that data. So what do most people do? They just put in the 6 fields. What do most OCR companies want? They want you to just input the bills as quick as you can so you can get to the part where they make the money, and that's in paying the bills. So, but what you need is data extraction in basically a blink of the eye, right? So you put in your bills, or they come in through email, however they come in, they get extracted with rarely any errors because you're using a computer vision model, right? So it gets the whole bill, it gets it right because it's scanning the whole bill, not just what it thinks it should be scanning. And then now you have the ability to make these decisions quicker because you have the information entered into your accounting platform faster. You have the ability to do approvals quicker and set up approvals that are based on more than just like the dollar amount. So it's amazing what we can do with computer vision and the data that it's actually extracting now. So here's how we've used it. Okay. And Suzette, this gets back to what you were talking about in teaching the system. So here's how we use computer vision and the models that we're talking about. So the first thing that we do is we scan the invoices that come in, regardless of how they come in, copy and paste, or from an email, like a dedicated email, or drag and drop, or whatever, right? So our Wise Vision technology, that is our proprietary technology, it scans these like thousands of data points on each bill. It doesn't just look for specific things. It scans the entirety of the bill. Then what it does is it indexes it, just like we talked about in the slides above. So with the tokenization and the context, so it indexes it for understanding, and then it organizes it just like we did with ChatGPT when we asked it to organize all the information into a database for us. And I did that on purpose, right? Because I wanted to show you how you can do this But you obviously wouldn't want to take every bill and put it into Chat GPT. So then what we have is this data set of all of the information that the computer now, once we have it tokenized and indexed, and we know what the context mean, or we have the context there, then we use our language model that we've programmed in to determine what all this information is. So we know how to serve it up to the user. So it's not dumb data that comes into the product. It knows exactly what that information is. So in instances where our language model doesn't understand, then we use a generative AI model on the outside to understand what it is, to say, hey, and we use the exact same model so it learns as it goes, right? So we're like, hey, does this look like a SKU number based on all the other SKU numbers we've shown to you? And then it comes back yes or no if we don't understand what it is, and then it puts it in and it's a SKU number, and it does all this stuff in seconds. Then Suzette, this is where you might be excited. So then what it does is it allows the user to tell the system as well what something might be. So in an instance where your agency's language is different from what the invoice or bill says. So Suzette, in your example where you want to associate the client ID as the user number, you would go in now and tell the system, because it's scanned everything on that invoice, you would go in and say, and you would have it learn by the user. You would go in, you select this blue little magnifying glass in the invoice section, and you type in like client ID. And then let's say the client ID is 25164, and it would show you everything that it's scanned from that bill. And then you select client ID, and now it's forever mapped. And you've done what we call an OCR learning. You've actually trained the system that the next time it encounters a bill from, like in the case of what we imported, Belimo, it automatically knows to use client ID as the invoice number and disregard the correct one, the invoice number. So it correctly scanned it, but it's using something different because the user told it to. Or in cases where it totally just messes up and forgets to scan something, you can train the system, hey, you missed this line item over here of surcharge or whatever it is. The next time a bill comes in from Glass and Mirror Craft, make sure you look for the word surcharge, and then use that in what you're extracting. And the beauty is, so we were talking with somebody yesterday, and they were asking like, okay, well, I've seen this before. You basically mark on the bill where it should look, but that's not what our product does. Our product actually says, here's the term to look for, and here's the associated field that it's associated to. So no matter where it is on that bill, so let's just say a client actually changes their bill up a little bit, it doesn't matter. It's not looking for a position in the bill. It's looking for the phrase because it's already indexed that phrase. It already knows what it is because of the way that, like you saw on here, it scans everything on that bill. So that's the way it should work, in my opinion, this whole streamlining of your AP, because now we've scanned every single thing on the bill. We understand. It's not just like, it's not just, numbers and letters. It actually means something because we've used large language models to determine what these fields are. And then we've asked the user, what is it, if we don't understand? So what are the shortcomings that we have currently in the industry? So it's completely outdated technology, right? If you think about the technology that some of the platforms are using now, it's not using this computer vision model. It's still using whatever is programmed within the software. Let's see what Suzette says. That's fantastic. Can we teach it to use the invoice number plus incremental counter. For example, the client ID is 12345 and have the invoice in May, another in June, keep the invoice ID unique. Not yet, but that's a good idea, Suzette. That's something that a lot of our updates. What Suzette is asking is, can we have a look, combine maybe two things, have it look at the client ID as 12345, and then look at maybe like the invoice date, and then have it 12345 June, 12345 May. That's a good thing, and I'm sure that could be accomplished. A lot of our updates come straight from our CPAs and our users, so that would be something that might actually, if the powers that be thought that was something that was useful, then that was something that they could probably program pretty darn easy. All right, so the outdated technology, like I said, it scans what, 6 items? How helpful is that to have the invoice number, the due date, and the dollar amount? It's not, I mean, it's great if all you want to do is pay bills. It does nothing for the ability for you to add value for your clients, because isn't that what's important? Is adding value to your clients. And what is the value? It's the story that you tell with the data. And you can't tell a lot of stories with 6 fields. And the most important field is just the dollar amount. So we're not telling the best stories. Like, what if we could tell a story of how much, like on payment terms? So if you think about like a payment term that says that it's 10%, 10 days, 30 days net, which means if I pay this bill within 10 days, I can take a 10% discount on the total price of that bill. What if we could tell a story as that's like, hey, not only what if we could flag that for your client, or for you to save that money for your client without having to do anything, right? Except for click a button. But what if we could say, hey, you didn't take advantage of all of these savings throughout the year, and here's what you would have saved if you used all of your vendor discounts and paid your bills within 10 days. You would have saved, let's just say, $2,800 over the course of the year. So these are things now that we can do as value-added advocates for our clients because we have the data. What if we said, hey, you paid late fees of X, Y, and Z because you paid them late every single time? So these are ways that we can help our clients be more efficient and add value to what we're servicing for our clients. Now, why else the shortcomings in the industry? Well, the bills are really, truly, totally complex. And if you're only programming your bills to look for specific areas or phrases change all the time. And so something that was called an invoice at one point may be called a bill number from a different client or something strange, right? So it's never going to pick up that PO or that bill or whatever. And now you have to go in every single time and create a data entry to correct it. What if you could teach it? Well, nope, it doesn't. Or what if it was just smart and knew it to begin with? But what if you could teach it when it's not smart? And so what else is the shortcomings is because they only scan these 6 items, they're not very flexible. They're very rigid. If it doesn't scan it one time because it doesn't understand, it's going to not scan it the same. It's going to not scan the correct one every single time. So they can't learn. It's whatever is there, and there is absolutely no learning. So those are some of the shortcomings. And so why haven't the legacy platforms evolved? Well, I have my thoughts on this. I don't know if it's true. Personally, myself, I think that they're more focused on the payment side than anything else. They just want you to get to the payments as quick as possible because that's where the money is made. They're not focused on what's very important is that pre-accounting side, the side where it's the data extraction, but also because think about how much it would take what disruption it would take to to move clients over to a new platform that did all of this stuff. And believe me, one of the really biggest reasons is bills are extremely difficult. Extremely. I always say bills are like snowflakes. Not one bill is the same. So you have bills that are like this one, Home Depot bill, that you have the item description, you have all this stuff, you maybe have a SKU number, you have a unit price, you have a quantity, you have a subtotal. So some are extremely long, and this one isn't even long. Like I said, we have some that are pages and pages and pages long that we extract. Some are complex. Look at this, is that Belimo one. And let's talk about the complexities that are in this extremely complex bill that we pull out the data, no problem at all. So if you look at it, it has the item truncated within within the description. So how are you going to know like what is an item number, what the description is? The quantity, if you look down, is kind of messed up within the actual description as well. Then we have this whole weird list price multiplier, an order value discount that's not shown anywhere else on the bill. So how do we equate for all of this stuff that's in here? And unless you can take it out, extract it, and index it, and actually understand it at a level like a AI can, you're never going to be able to do what we're talking about here. And then some are just like the kitchen sink. Some are like this one, all in one file. And let's say your client sends you this. What are you going to do with this besides just maybe print it out and enter it in manually? So you have two bills that are poorly scanned. They've probably been sitting on the bottom of somebody's truck for a while. You have two receipts. You have a handwritten receipt. And then you have like these other receipts. And in a regular legacy, old school OCR product, it's not going to know what to do with something like this. It's going to probably I know it's going to, because I've done it before, combine receipts, give you a total from one receipt number that's on another bill number. It's a mess. So this is why AP has been so difficult to do in an accounting firms, especially if you want to be a full service accounting firm or like a fractional, today's buzzword, a fractional CFO, and offer ancillary services to your clients. Accounts payable was always a non-profitable thing or service to offer to your clients because it was always so difficult and error prone and labor intensive. Okay, so what is the impact of AI, right, to a firm? So think about the savings to a firm. Regardless if you're a value-based, or now the new key buzzword is subscription-based, or an hourly-based firm. So value-based, what are we always trying to do? We're always trying to improve efficiencies. The more efficient that we can become in a value-based firm, the more clients we can take on, or the more we can do with our private life, right? Because we're not doing so much. I always say, like, we all have the same 168 hours in a week. Time is a constraint for us. So the only way in an hourly based firm to make more money is to be more efficient. Now, in an hourly based firm, the only way to make more money is to either charge more for tasks that have more value to your clients, which data entry, like we already discussed, has no value, or to hire more people so you can have more clients. But in an hourly based firm, that's kind of like a zero net right there, because you have to hire in order to make more money. So now think about your CAS practice and the ability to add something like using AI, using the technology that we've gone over, to add a service like AP, because people need, and especially in larger type businesses, they need somebody to do the AP for them, because it is very, very time consuming. In a lot of cases, they have one or two people, and that's all they do is data entry. So just think of the savings that a firm can give to a client with the ability to extract data accurately and have it do it in seconds instead of hours or days. And then the scalability of a solution like this, as your clients grow, your clients can grow with it as well. So I'm going to talk about next steps. We're at about 55 minutes here. So we do have a partner program. And if you'd like to learn more about how this actually works, because we talked a lot about concept of how AI can work in data extraction and then putting it into a database and how it can learn and understand. We've actually done it. So if you'd like to learn more about what this looks like, you can go to makershub.ai and try it out there. It's absolutely free for our partners that have a managed account on there. So you can get it, you can try it out for 90 days. And then as soon as you put on a managed account, which would be one of your clients, you have it for free forever. We also have certification to train you and stuff like that. So we had a few questions. If you have other questions, though, and you want to get a hold of me directly, you can get me at T McRae, MCRAE. So it's TMCRAE at makershub.ai. I'm also on LinkedIn and all those other social platforms. And I would say just give it a try. Take a look. I hope you enjoyed the session. I know your guys' time is valuable. And so thank you all very much. And I'm going to put it back to the moderator.
Yeah, thanks, Ted. That was great. And here's a quick reminder to everyone on how to earn CPE for this webinar.
Today's event has ended. To earn CPE, go to earmark.app or scan the QR code on the screen. Then log in or create your free account. Search for the course by tapping on the magnifying glass icon on the home screen and then entering the name of this event. It takes a few days to make the course, so if you're attending this event live, keep an eye out for an email letting you know when the course is available. Pass the quiz to earn your CPE, then tap the button to email yourself a certificate. Stay tuned for more events from Earmark. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon.